Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. We're carrying on with this long project. So last week we stopped at the point where we kind of painted in reasonably well this arm, hand, face and the upper part of the torso. And this week we're going to be carrying on working in this kind of detailed area of the painting. So we're going to work the shadow next to this side of the face, then the arm, the rest of this rib cage and waist, and then work a bit on the drapery, the dress, and we'll probably finish by we'll drop down and work on the foot a bit. And next week in our final lesson we'll just be trying to finish off as much as possible as of the background, so it's not going to be super detailed. The original is quite scrubby as well, so we'll just be looking at how you can use kind of quicker techniques to block in a larger area like this. But generally it's advisable to spend time focusing on your focal point. That's what we're looking at last week and this week, and then we'll have a final session to kind of bring everything together and add further detail in the other elements of the painting. But the further back we go in the image, the less detail we'll have. So for now we're just looking at this kind of central foreground aspect. So again, like last week, I'm going to be mixing up some skin tones initially. So it's good to do your lighter skin tones first, because they'll tend to be the kind of purest element of the painting. You want the most highest chroma in the lightest part of the skin tones, and then everything else is going to go a bit more kind of burnt and umbery. So it's okay if we shift a little bit down into grayer colours then. So I'm going to start with a light flesh tone mixture, so that's going to be cadmium yellow, cadmium red and white. Try that just here. So it's probably a little bit too light, so I can tone it down a bit, make it a little bit darker. Yeah, that's a bit better, so it's got a bit more chroma and less bit darker. Going to shift to some yellow ochre in this portion here, so that to go a little bit darker, and just there, and do a little bit of a pink shift at this point here. So I'm just looking for kind of hue and chroma shifts. Everything's roughly well established in the original sketch, so I don't have to worry too much about shapes. I'm happy about those, so I'm just shifting colours and transitions really. got some blue skin tones at the back of the arm here. Just going to get them in. Seems to go a little bit brighter in here. I want it to stand out a little bit more against that arm. That's not too bad generally though, so I'm reasonably happy with that. All of that rendering. So I'm going to work on the transition from shadow under the chin. So I can just fill in that shadow a bit more. And then it's going to have a softer transition as it comes out. So it's called the penumbra where I'm softening. So you want to look for those sorts of kind of shifts in softness. So that helps just project that chin out. And then I also want to use this opportunity to go in and add a nice heavy dark just underneath the hair there. And then also transition that into the same shadow. So it's going to be getting gradually lighter as it moves into the main part of the shadow there. But that really helps to pop the head out a bit. And there's a similar sort of thing going on just behind the hair here. Yeah, so it's not too bad for that section. So we can drop down now to start working the lower portion of the chest. So this is marked by quite strong chroma shifts. So I've got the pink shadow just underneath the breast, and then switches to being very yellow. And then goes a bit lower chroma up here as it kind of transitions into the main part of the chest. And there are still some more pinks as well, so we want those pinks and blues. So then the back side of this torso again has a kind of burnt, some of these burnt umber as the shadow, mixed in with some of the higher chroma pigments. And then it goes quite dark again up here. Similar to up near the hair, we use that to help pop out these lighter forms. Yeah, that works pretty well. So that allows us to now move down and start working on the drapery as well. So I'm going to get a bit more. What I'm using for the drapery is primarily alizarin crimson, because it goes to a nice kind of pink colour and white. So I'm going to clean my brushes off so they're a bit less yellowy, and then can start mixing some pinks up. Some brighter pinks, and the lightest sections are up here, so yeah, that's not a bad colour. So there's quite light. You could possibly do with being maybe a shade or so yellower, but given that it's so easy to reach, the right colour with straight alizarin crimson, I'm reluctant to make it too complicated. I might add, just in the highlights where it goes a bit brighter, might add a touch of yellowishness So that breaking does help actually. Looks quite nice, even in the darker bits. So we will use a mixture then of a little bit of yellow as well. So I'm going to try to make my brush strokes roughly match the kind of nature of the drapery and the different parts that I'm working on. And the underlayer I can use as my shadow color, so because it's a little bit darker than it would need to be the original block in, I use that to start developing form in this way. I only really need to block in extra light little bits of drapery. So that's working out pretty well, giving some nice form to the drapery. Got some little highlights down there. I'm not going to go quite as detailed as the original because we're not going to go for a full complete copy. We just want to kind of explore the colours used, some of the brushwork, the relationship between detail and different parts of the image. Generally it's blocking in nicely, these colours. So a lot of this is to do with getting the right direction of brushstroke. So I'm trying to get my brushstrokes to lay in a way that matches the fall of the drapery, places where it's more clumped versus kind of reverse creases and so on. I'm fairly happy with that top section of drapery, so I can just do the same thing down here, working on the knee. So I'm thinking about what's going on in the body underneath the drapery as well. It's a little bit yellower down here actually, so I'm going to go for some slightly more yellowish notes mixed in. As a general rule, as it's kind of turning down away from the light source, it's getting a bit darker. And we're even getting down into some things that feel a bit like shadows lower down here, which we'll try to block in as well. But first up, I'm just going to bring the drapery to a neater edge against this blue, because next week we're going to be working on this blue drapery as well. So I'm going to be clear with where that ends. I'll probably be building over it a bit as well, so get a little bit more of a chance. So it's particularly light just in here and kind of yellowish. So I want to get that highlight just on almost like a point of the knee that shows through there. Kind of shimmering fabric. That's not too bad. And then I'm just going to use a different brush and go for a much darker yellow alizarin crimson mixture. And try to block in some of these reflected lights in the drapery, see if that works. Yeah, it's not bad actually. So even though it's quite an extreme shift, it does feel like it works. I feel like reflected light's coming back into the drapery there, which is nice. Some more down there. And a teensy bit of it kind of shows through some of these bits. But that works pretty well. So I'm fairly happy with the drapery now. I've got a few more minutes, so I'm just going to tilt camera down and we will finish on that foot. So the foot's going to be using the same colours that we've established. I just want to build a a highlight for it. It'll mainly just be kind of blocking it out in terms of where the highlight is, where the toes start to turn away, and then a transition up into some more kind of shadowy half tones. She goes pretty blue up here, so I'm going to block, I think that's the water reflecting and part of the drapery above. So I'm going to go for a bit of a transition up into a bluish colour there. Got that heel as well. Start to define some of the shape of the feet. We're not going to go into too much detail though, because we don't want it to be kind of more detailed than anything up above. Just want to give a slightly better sense of what the foot's doing. A little bit too grey, that colour, so I'm just trying to introduce a little bit more cadmium into it, and then I'm going to overpaint a bit with white, just a bit of cad yellow as well, just to get that glow. Doing my mixing on the canvas there. Yeah, that works okay. I've got quite a strong kind of orangey colour, reflected light on the heel. Try to block that in. Yeah, that works pretty well. A little bit of a similar sort of thing going on that edge there. Maybe just a suggestion down around the toes helps as well. Not too bad. Just going to try to get a slightly darker shadow, just dropping, kind of blending into those tones that we've got, just so it feels more like that drapery is going over the top of it. And finally, in the last couple of minutes that we've got, let's be a bit more specific about the shape of the foot. Yeah, it's not too bad. So just by kind of going around the foot and being a bit more specific with its shape, it feels a lot more detailed. So yeah, that's it pretty much. So that's the whole figure blocked in now. And we're in a position next week, probably do a slightly longer session where we can just up about there. Slightly longer session where we kind of look at how we finish everything off, but generally it's working pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with all the forms. Shows what you can do in a pretty short period of time. So even though I've not gone super detailed with all the shapes, I've not quite caught all the blendings, I'm mostly interested in the relationship between different values, getting the value and color chroma relationships in place. But yeah, that's it, and I will see you guys next week for what should be the final session on this. Hopefully you found it interesting. As always, like our page and follow our YouTube channel, and also if you want to take a look at getting some more detailed feedback from myself and other tutors, click the link through to OCAD's website and sign up for our Art Studio course. I'll see you guys soon.